Hi, this herb is called plantain and it is the most common ingredient that will be used in cancer protocol treatments. It is a wild grass and it's called plantain, just pronounced and spelled like the cooking banana. However, it has no relation to the plantain fruit that grows in warm climates. Um, a better name to call it would be Plantago. That is the scientific or the Latin name for it. Plantago. Plantago. There are different variations of it, and they grow in similar climates in North America and Europe. And it is very abundant. The roots, these are the entire roots that I harvested earlier today. Um, the roots happen to be quite easy to pull up once you harvest them, and the roots are edible. However, the person I learned herbology from doesn't really mention the roots in use. Primarily, it will be the leaf or the grass used, and it will be dried and powdered and consumed on a daily basis, almost like food, and in food like portions in order to really clear out and heal the body from cancer. In my research, and I can cite the page in medical texts that where doctors state that cancers are generally thought of, cancer tumors are they're all different, but this is a quote, generally thought of as wounds that do not heal. This herb plantain is famous for being a wound healing herb. It stops inflammation, kills parasites, and works on the entire body. It works from head to toe. It works by way of bloodstream. When clearing out cancer from the body, um, it needs to work with natural substances that work by way of going throughout all the bloodstream. That's the arteries, veins, and capillaries, lymphatic system from head to toe, through and through the body. What we see in the mirror, when we look at ourselves without clothing in the mirror, that is only a small portion of who we are. The inside of our body is way more vast and has more surface area than what we can imagine. It's something we don't think about every day because we cannot see the inside of our body. We only see the outer skin. But the inside of our body is so vast. There are many crevices, corners, nooks, and crannies on the inside of our body. And that is why we need to treat cancer with food. Yes, food, because what we eat. And if we're eating herbs, yes, eating herbs, not taking herbs, but eating herbs, contributing it to our daily meals, drinks, it will clear out the cancer. This is not sold in supermarkets anywhere. It's wild herb. However, the supplements are sold and the extract is sold on the market. What I find is that the tablets that are sold are, it's good that they have it available for sale, but the portions are not enough to really bombard the bloodstream and clear out the cancer. Because when a doctor confirms that a patient has cancer, that is only what they can see. If a person has cancer inside different crevices of the body and corners of the body, that means there's inflammation throughout. If the cancer is there and able to spread, the immune system is compromised. This herb is a patcher upper of anything busted within the body, microscopically busted. And that is what is cancer. Cancer is a microscopic injury, bursting injury. The body is busted. on the it's microscopically busted, so we cannot see it, and we don't know. But yes, it's the body is bursted or injured, or there's some kind of like rash, inflammation, injury of some sort that is taken over and spreading. A lot of the times, cancer is thought of as this mysterious thing that just comes out of nowhere. That's not the case. The case is there's inflammation in the body that can be stopped, and usually inflammation in the body that has been there for so long that advanced microscopic creatures have taken over and are spreading, are colonizing within your flesh. They're living there. They need to die. Just like mold on a bathtub, mm, mold in a bathtub, fungus on a tree or in a garden, it can, once if you're still alive, breathing and eating, and you have cancer, you can be healed, and you can be healed with proper nutrition added to your diet. As I stated before, these are not sold in supermarkets, and the portions available through tablets are what I find good enough for only 2 days worth of what I would use in a protocol, because the body needs to be bombarded, I say, bombarded with this substance through in the morning, later on. Every time you take a sip of water, this should be in your mouth as a powder. Every time you eat food, every time you take a sip of water, a sip of, by the hour, or by every 2 hours, 3 hours, throughout the day, from morning to night, whatever you put in your mouth, this should be there as well. So that means the portion has to be a lot, because it becomes like a food instead of a supplement, like what is offered in tablets. Um, this herb, I picked it when it's young. It's good young or mature. It has not flowered yet. When a herb flowers, that is the equivalent to a human, a young man being able to produce sperm, or a woman who has started menstruating. That is the flowering stage um, of a human, and that's what happens when a plant develops its flower. Because after the flower comes the seed, which is the offspring of the plant. This is a very young plant that has not produced sperm or an egg yet, so it has not flowered. So it's not able to reproduce yet. It's still the beginning of spring, and it just started sprouting. However, it's very nutritious, healthy, supplies so many nutrients that stop injury and inflammation in its tracks. What if, only if, it is consumed in proper portions and often enough. This has got to be married to your bloodstream, always touching your bloodstream, always in the intestinal tract. It cannot be that you take a spoonful of the powder in the morning and not again for the next 2 days, or maybe one other teaspoon at night. No, constantly. One teaspoon when you wake up at 8, another when two more at 10 before breakfast or before coffee. After coffee, go use the bathroom, take a sip of water with another teaspoon. And that's only before 12 o'clock. So then you go for breakfast. Have some sprinkled in your oatmeal. Have another teaspoon with warm water. 12 o'clock, you have lunch. Have some water or juice or iced tea made out of with this. The powder. The best way to take it, the best, simultaneously being the best and most cost-effective way to take this herb is through powder. The extract does take time to soak, and even then it is good, but it's actually pricey to have soak the proper portion of this leaf in alcohol, because the alcohol is pricey, and the amount you would need to take for 2 weeks or less is much, and it would be way too expensive if we were to use the extract by way of grain alcohol, which is uh, soaking the powder or the whole leaf in vodka for a month or more so that the plant material marries into the liquid and that you take it as a drop, and it's very powerful, more powerful than a tea. That's time consuming and expensive. The time it takes for this material, it's effective, but time consuming and expensive. The time it takes for it to soak so that it marries completely with that liquid, and the cost of the liquid you would need to really clear it out your system. It's pricey. Can be done, take some time. Usually, time is of the essence when it comes to cancer because this is a microscopic entity that has taken over your body and is colonizing it at a rate that is fast. To fight, to the attitude needed to approach fighting cancer is a fighting, mean spirit where you gotta kill this mold, this fungus, this thing growing inside the body. And remember, the body has many crevices and cracks and corners that we can't even imagine. It would be scary to even touch it or see it because we're not used. Nobody is used to seeing the inside of their body. This is why sometimes during surgery, we sometimes want to see pictures of what they did or what they took out because we couldn't imagine that the thing was inside of us. Um, anyway, this herb is very special. It can be dried. I have some. Here it is up close. Another name for it is ribwort. Don't know why it's called ribwort, but it does help it helps the body from head to toe. It helps the head, the intestinal tract, the kidneys. It helps the entire flesh of the body, and that is why I use it in my treatments. This is the main ingredient used in all of my treatments. I use other herbs too, but this is the main one. The other herbs I use are uh, specific to target certain organs where the problem may lie the most. But this is generally a good herb for children, pregnant women, elderly, and even if you are taking chemotherapy, this herb has the power to combat the poison that is chemotherapy. Chemotherapy drugs are mostly poisonous. They have terrible side effects, and there are some that are administered. They're administered sometimes once a week or once every few days because they are so destructive to the body. The patient has to be monitored after they take it. They end up feeling so tired, so weak, so nauseous. There's one chemotherapy drug that, if it's not injected into the proper vein, it'll burn the flesh around the vein. This herb will actually heal any burning or inflammation that chemotherapy causes. Chemotherapy may be able to kill some cancer cells, but it destroys the body in the process. This is not destructive at all. It is completely whole, made by God, and holistic. It is sacred, special. It has properties within it that scientists have not even have a name. They don't even have a name for it yet, or they'll never have a name for it because this herb is made by God. We don't know God's secrets, but it is written about in Nicholas Culpeper's book called Color Herbal. This is a very famous, actually I wouldn't say famous, but in the community of herbalism he's known. He has several published books about different herbs and what they do. He also attributes personality to the herbs. And this one it so happens to belong to the planet Venus, which rules the excretory system. That is the kidneys, the bladder, and the genitals. That is where we excrete all our poisons. The cancer material will primarily be exited out the body by way of herbs through the excretory system. So the components of the scabbing, the excess material will be excreted through your bowels and through your kidney. This herb helps the kidney, the digestion, and it just is a patch all for injuries and inflammation throughout the body. Inside of our bodies is the wounds on the inside of our body are different and more sensitive than the ones on the outside. The wounds on the outside of our body have access to fresh air, so that they are able to scab and be monitored and picked off, and we can see if any wound upon our flesh has gotten infected, if it's taking a long time to heal, if it's healed. However, on the inside of our body, we cannot, because we can't see, cannot monitor the way it's healing. And that is why herbs that work by way of bloodstream, naturally touching our bloodstream, is the best way to clear out inflammation, poisons, injuries, and microscopic harmful creatures out of our body, molds, funguses, etc., on a microscopic level. Because when the components of this herb gets digested into the bloodstream, it has a special intelligence to work in the smallest crevices of our blood. It is married to our bloodstream, and that is why we will have to bombard the patient with this herb. It cannot be that 1 teaspoon is taken today and maybe 2 tomorrow, another 1 teaspoon the next day. No, it has to be constantly from morning to night. This herb will be your best friend the moment you wake up. As you go for a drink of water, this is on deck at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 in the evening, 4 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening, 6, 7 before bed. Teaspoons upon teaspoons of this herb powdered in water. That is what it will take to really clean out the system of cancer, which is generally thought of as a wound that does not heal. Speaking of wounds that do not heal, that is a quote from a cancer text that I read, a medical text, and I can show the page from this book written by oncologists. An oncologist is a doctor who studies cancer cells, and oncologists say cancers are generally thought of as wounds that do not heal. This herb is famous for healing wounds, sucking out poisons, and helping the body to excrete it out the system. There are different variations of the plant called Plantain or Plantago. There are so many variations of it. However, they all work the same, and they have similar vein pattern within them, even though they're slightly different shape. Here's one type and another. Here's a third kind, which looks more similar to the first. The leaves are a different shape, but the pattern upon them and the coloring is the same. When Culpepper writes about his herbs, and that is who I primarily study when dealing with healing herbs. I study him because he has written extensively about the herbs of North America that can be found in North America. He writes in a way that common women can use the herbs within their home to help them and their family. And he wrote about the herbs before the Industrial Revolution, where we have machinery producing chemotherapy drugs or other synthetic versions of natural God-made plants. And he writes in a style similar to like Shakespeare or the language in the Bible, because it is from the 17th century, which is the 1600s, and he writes in that kind of old English Shakespeare type of style. And it is not common that a lay person have a little trouble might have a little trouble reading his words, but I will read all of what plantain is good for, and I'll read it in my own words, even though I feel a little bit. Um, I apologize for having to do that, but he uses words like excoriations, fluxes, bowels, distillations, dropsy. Language not commonly used today, but I actually have a bachelor's degree in English from the University at Albany, State University of New York, and I'm very good with synonyms or explaining more complicated terminology. So I'll just read all of the virtues that he writes here. You can even contact me if you would like a copy of this. I can find a way to give it to you so you can read it for yourself in his own words. But I'll read it briefly just to describe what it's good for. It's good for the entire body, even children. So he's saying that the juice of this plant, drank for a few days, helps injuries in the stomach, any kind of injury, whether it be an ulcer, an allergic reaction, any kind of injury in the stomach or intestines, and also um, mucus that comes from the head into the nasal tract. It closes up wounds from in the head and the stomach intestinal area. He says that it stops all flowing mucuses or blood, even a woman's too much of a woman's menstrual blood. It stops that. And when wounds are bleeding like our gums, any kind of wound in the inside of the body or outside, it stops it. It supplies the proper minerals that in a medicinal portion that closes up spreading. Cancer is something that spreads. Ringworm, uh, eczema, those are injuries of sorts that spread. This stops the spreading. That's what he's saying. The seed, when it has a seed, this particular one that I've harvested has not began to seed yet. However, when it is more mature and has started to seed, it can be used as well. The mature leaves and young leaves can be used, and the seed and the flower too. So in this text, he's saying the seed is good against dropsy. Dropsy is the thing that happens when our ankles swell or we get a puffiness around our eye. Dropsy is another word for water retention. That is when the kidneys are, something's wrong with the kidneys and they are not, the kidneys and bladder issue, the kidneys need to take away water out the body. The kidneys are responsible for the urine that we have. It filters the urine, it brings it to the bladder, and the bladder dashes away, throws away the excess water. When our kidneys are injured, the water that we're supposed to pee out a long time ago gathers and floods up inside the crevices and cracks of our body. And that is when you'll see puffy eyes or the swollen ankles, swollen arms. That is a kidney issue. The kidneys are damaged and they are not helping the body to remove the water. The water is backing up. It's almost like a clogged tub where the water is just slowly backing up. And the more you drink water and live your life, the more the water that is on your in your body being backed up is causing even more injury. And can someone say, take a wild guess where the last place we would want water in our body? Last place we would want water to back up into our body is the lungs. We do not want water in our lungs. We don't want no human ever wants the lungs. No human ever wants the body to be so backed up with water that the water starts leaking into the lungs. That is when you get pneumonia or a drowning feeling. Eventually, when water's in the lungs, it will cause heart problems. The heart is the lung. The heart is the opening to the lung. And once the water backs up and starts flooding and rising in the bloodstream in the inner crevices of our body and starts to touch the heart panics and the heart panics, and that's where we get heart failure. It's so sad and highly preventable just through common education. So there's so much text that is in here, and I love to describe it. The seed is good against that water retention. That when the kidneys are damaged, the water that should have been flushed down the toilet is still in the body, trapping the body, causing swelling. It's also called a word edema, dropsy. He calls it dropsy. Dropsy is when DROPSY. That is water retention. Water that should have been excreted out the body is still there. So that we get the swollen eyes, swollen ankles. The body what you need to do is pee pee. The kidneys need to be helped so that you can pee pee out that excess water. That water should be gone. And you can live another day and drink more water and pee pee that out, but it should not be trapped in the body. Dropsy is when water is trapped in the body because the kidneys are defective. Defective kidneys are caused by injury by way of the things we eat, mostly, and things we don't eat. You can enjoy alcohol, you can enjoy sweets, salty food, but it's also important that we supplement our body with the proper nutrition as well. And that proper nutrition can only come from green plants, flowers, roots, something organic. It cannot come from any drops or pills from a drugstore that has not been derived from plant material. And even if you do find a bottle with plant material, it's probably not going to be enough to really bombard and take on a daily basis at the proper portions so that it clears out that injury and heals it in a holistic way. The seed is profitable against that dropsy, which is when the kidneys are defective and the water just keeps backing up into the body, causing pain and tiredness, sluggishness, because it's starting to affect the heart. The water is leaking into the lungs, you better believe it. And the lungs is the last place any human would want water. The lungs should stay dry and clear of any mucus and water, or else you get like a drowning feeling, which I've heard described by people who are very sick. Falling sickness. This is him talking about the seed that is connected to the flower, which is the seed and the flower can be called also the fruit of a plant. For example, the fruit we eat is like a pregnant belly almost, so that's the fruit. So he's saying that the fruit is good against, all of it is good against water retention, jaundice, which is a liver infection, and any kind of stopping in the liver and the blood vessels serving the kidneys. He's saying that the juice or the water dropped into the eyes clears out inflammations of them. So if your eyes are burning and red, infected, you can put the juice of this plant, Plantago, into your eyes. He's saying that the juice mixed with certain oils and applied to the temple helps headaches that come from hot feeling. It can be applied to gout in the hands and feet. Gout is a type of arthritis caused by the kidneys, again, being injured. And because the kidneys are injured, the proper ratio of chemicals within the urine are backing up into the inner crevices of our body. The kidneys are very important because the kidneys are the ones responsible for throwing out any garbage. Garbage is everywhere. It's in the air, it's in our food, it's a byproduct of our digestion. Our kidneys need to be healthy so that we can dash away all and every poison, microscopic materials, food coloring, any kind of inorganic garbage that our body just needs to get rid of. And it's natural. It gets rid of gout in the hands and feet. Gout in the hands and feet is a byproduct of kidney disease. It's good to apply to bones that are out of joint and to stop inflammations and swellings that rise upon the joints. Wow. This is a very special herb. It's very healing. The dried and powdered leaves taken in drink kills worms of the belly. Worms of the belly are usually associated with the eating of raw, unclean meat. That's a lot of shellfish, raw shellfish, pork, meat that hasn't eggs, milk, things that maybe were consumed at the wrong temperature, and it just causes all kind of injury within the stomach. So when we drink this, it clears away that the mucus and slime that lays upon the stomach after eating bad food. And he's saying that it kills the worm and it closes up ulcers in the stomach and intestinal area. And through clearing up bad things in the stomach and intestine, that is how it will help the brain. Because the stomach and intestine, you will find, are twins. And that is why eating a lot of crayfish, shrimp, is the cause for a lot of mental illness. But that will never be stated on mainstream media, but that's another story. So this herb, powdered, just helps ringworms, shingles, running and fretting sores. Ringworm, shingles, and fretting sores, those are things like eczema, foot fungus, herpes, chicken pox, measles, things like breakouts, basically. And he calls them a fretting sore, meaning it's something that is spreading so fast and it's so nasty that it causes the person to fret. It's frightening, like, whoa, what's this infection upon me? This herb he's describing will help with that infection or that wound, and it helps the inside of the body as well. However, when gotten by way of tablets sold in supermarket stores or health food stores, it's just simply not enough. One would have to buy 20 bottles to really get the portion needed, and that's ridiculous. Better to receive it from a person who studies this and really can bear witness to the power of it. Because I use it myself. I would give it to my children. I gave it to my friends. Taking it myself, but plantains are good wound herbs for wounds and sores, internal and external. And that is what cancer is generally thought of as. I'll try to put the screenshot of that page. I took a picture of the page from that book where he says, cancer, quote, cancer tumors are generally thought of as wounds that do not heal. And this herb heals wounds, but it must be given in the proper portions and at the proper frequency. 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoon, 3 teaspoon a day may not be enough. One would have to take it constantly. It's within drink and powder by in the morning, afternoon, evening, early evening before bed. And again the next day, and the next day, and the next day for maybe 9 days. And I'd love to see if any cancer is in the body after 6 days, 7 days of this, bombarding the bloodstream with this herb. Now here it is fresh. I picked this today. The root is dries easily, dries faster than the leaf. The leaf takes a while to dry, but when it's dried, it will dry to a consistency where it is able to be powdered very easily. You can hear that, and can be crushed in a mortar and pestle device like this into an easy powder where you can take it by the teaspoon. So that was my description of plantain and how just things about it that a person who wants to heal themselves from cancer needs to know about this herb. It is sold in market, online, and health food stores, but not at a portion that is needed to really wipe clean the body by way of in the capillaries. It's working in the capillaries that serve the brain, the capillaries that serve the lungs, just the entire body, the whole network of the body. This, when it's bombarded into the bloodstream, it will help you. It will, but it cannot help you if too little bit is taken. And that's the main point of this video. The point of this video is to describe the herb, describe how it helps, and really emphasize that the portion needed to help your cancer is like food. You need to bombard the bloodstream with this. 1 teaspoon in the morning and another one before bed is not good enough. Take two teaspoons in the morning. 2 hours later, another two teaspoons. Maybe 3 hours later, 1 teaspoon. Then at 2 hours after that, before dinner, 3 teaspoons. Yeah, like 7 to 9 teaspoons a day of this. Not to mention, along with the powdered teaspoons, having the tea. You don't have to drink it hot. You can make iced tea with it, or any drinking water you have should have that herb within it. The bloodstream has to constantly be touching the inside of your body in order for it to work within the cracks and crevices. Okay, well, I hope this video was helpful, and I am available to answer more questions through consultations. Okay, thank you.